AJ is a 38-year-old man presenting to the emergency room with psychosis. The admitting nurse offered him a glass of water. He refused, telling them that he distills his own water at home because he believes that his neighbor is poisoning him. He wanted everyone to know that he studied nutrition in college. 3 months earlier, AJ was browsing the most informative website on the entire internet, reading about health. He saw a post discussing how table salt, sodium chloride, is bad for you, and he didn't like this. In the real world, if something is unavoidable in daily life like salt, then being mindful of your intake and actually using it sparingly is the best way to limit the bad effects. That's the actual sentiment one will find when reading through the medical literature on this, but AJ didn't like that answer. He studied nutrition in college, so it was time for him to find a better answer. AJ started arguing with people on the internet. He got the idea in his mind that chloride is the cause of all of the health problems rather than sodium. It's almost as abundant in blood as sodium is, so if one were to reduce chloride intake, then clearly it will be better for health. And why argue with stupid people on the internet, AJ thought. AI is smart. It's all signal, definitely no noise. When he started chatting with it, the AI reaffirmed him. You are correct. Ah, good question. It said that sodium bromide was a viable alternative to sodium chloride, but it asked him about his goals. If the goal is reducing chloride for health, you could avoid chlorine compounds in bleach or in the pool. You could replace chlorine-based cleaning and disinfecting agents too. When you get to this extreme side of the periodic table, elements aren't really that different because right next to them are the noble gases. These are stable and they don't react, so definitely there's no problem for cleaning. But AJ glazed over that cleaning detail. It was time to clean his body of chloride. He ordered sodium bromide online and started using it to salt everything that he ate. At first, AJ didn't really notice too much of a difference. It definitely didn't taste the same, but it wasn't bad, and as the days continued, he felt he was getting healthier. But then he started getting thirsty. He noticed this when he felt his stomach suddenly cramp up. Muscles cramp up because of dehydration, so as long as he was hydrating, it was no problem, he thought. But every day in the morning, water would come up. He'd feel exhausted after this. There were hours where he was watching TV, but he didn't have a TV. He started having a headache that wouldn't go away. He lived alone, but he could hear someone talking to him. His new upstairs neighbor would not stop, drag things across the floor.
It's hard to triangulate health problems, but if you change your habits drastically with something like this, and there's problems, wouldn't you just go for help immediately? I mean, you know that whatever you did is bad.
The ceiling would vibrate, and he knew he could see paint chips flake from the ceiling
and drop
at least water. The voice that was speaking to him said that his neighbor was doing this on purpose to poison him. But the voice and the neighbor kept getting louder and louder, and when he finally couldn't take this anymore, he brought himself to the emergency room where we are now. Hey, I got a quick question. If you're learning something from this video and you like it and you're not a membrane, the problem is these devices assume that you're measuring chloride because it's
hold on. Wait, was that not an ad?
AJ eliminated chloride from his diet and replaced it with bromide instead. How is it possible that he has high chloride presence in blood?
xQc.
Well, there's a little chemistry
the body transforms.
Chloride has a negative electrical charge. When hospital labs measure it, they use a device that finds the movement of chloride ion through a membrane. The problem is, these devices assume that you're measuring chloride because it's the only negatively charged, simple, elemental ion that's supposed to be in your body. So if there's another negatively charged, simple elemental ion in the body like bromide, in a significant amount, the reported number is going to include bromide and lump everything together for a giant number. The AI chatbot was right. Bromide isn't that different from chloride. AJ doesn't actually have high chloride presence in blood. What's actually being measured as chloride is really bromide. It's in his blood. It's accumulated in his body, but nothing will tell doctors that it's bromide. They don't know that he took it. He's so incapacitated that he can't tell them that. But hyperchloremia with paranoid delusions gives them some clues as to what's happening. Humans are electrically neutral. We're not charged. So our negative and positive charges are equal in the body. We just said that they're...
So the bromide stack, it will give him the symptoms of hyperchloremia?
Aren't that many different negatively charged things in the body. Chloride is one, it's the most abundant one in the blood, and bicarbonate, which is base, is the second largest one. It's there to balance out acid. Some proteins and fats are also negatively charged, but we don't need to figure out every single one. If we can get a rough calculation based on the most common body ions, and we can repeat that measurement while a patient is in the hospital, then just the changes in that calculation can give us insight on what's happening. Sodium is the majority of positive ion in the blood. It's more than 90%. So if chloride and bicarbonate are the most abundant negative ions at 85%, then in a healthy person, if you subtract chloride and bicarbonate negative charge from sodium positive charge, you get between 4 and 12. This is called the anion gap. Anion being a negatively charged chemical. 90 versus 85% means that this difference should be positive. If it's negative, then something is wrong. And in AJ, it was negative. His hyperchloremia was so high that his anion gap was negative 21. These three numbers tell us a lot. He had excessive thirst. That could mean that he was dehydrated, but think about that. Less water would mean that his sodium would be high, but it wasn't. It was normal. He had a little bit more base in his body than normal too. This could be a problem, maybe not. All of this information together with psychotic symptoms tells the medical team that the chloride measurement is simply wrong, and that the only thing that can cause this is AJ taking too much bromide for whatever reason because of where it is on the periodic table next to chloride. In the psychiatric unit, the nurse saw that AJ had tried to escape. AJ told them that he was seeing shadowy figures and hearing voices. And there's a medical reason why bromide does this. Bromide used to be a treatment for seizures. In 1857, Dr. Charles Locock in Victorian England was looking to treat a group of women's excessive libido and uncontrollable onanism. They believed that back then, if you engaged in that self-behavior, it would cause seizures. Only one of the women in this group actually had epilepsy, but the bromide did in fact suppress her seizures. And bromide was being used for this all the way into the 1970s, just the seizure part. And when it was banned by the FDA, that was when it stopped. And the reason for the ban wasn't because companies were paying off the FDA. The alternatives for seizure treatments were already 60 and 40 years old at that time and were off patent. It was because bromide's side effects were really difficult to deal with. The AI that AJ chatted with got caught between the blurred lines. Bromide and chloride physically get mistaken as the same thing. The lab test does it, the human body does it too. They're not the same thing, and that's the problem. Let's start with the brain. There's two different modes. It gets excited, and then it gets inhibited. Excitation happens through a neurotransmitter called glutamate. And inhibition happens through a neurotransmitter called GABA. When GABA calms the brain down, the brain cells let chloride rush in to send the signal to the other cells and nerves. But if bromide is there, the body can't tell the difference. It's not the same thing. When bromide is surrounded by water, the total size is smaller than when chloride is surrounded by water. This means that more bromide enters into the brain than chloride, sending a more intense signal. Altering GABA in the brain leads to a variety of problems in a way that we're still learning about. For example, alcohol is a depressant. It does that through GABA. When one becomes dependent on alcohol,
you're gonna have a higher density of bromide because it takes less place than the chloride ones when you get it with salt and whatnot.
The brain compensates in the opposite direction, creating more structures that excite the brain
because it binds with the
always
water.
Inhibited by the alcohol. And when that person suddenly quits cold turkey, the brain, expecting more alcohol to calm it, starts to hallucinate. It becomes paranoid. It causes seizures, and the resulting discharge can be deadly. For AJ, bromide was acting on GABA in his brain, causing delusional thinking and psychosis. We also know that bromide substantially lowers blood flow to certain parts of the brain. Muscles use chloride to signal for contraction, but bromide is too similar while being different enough. The muscles in his gut became irritated, causing severe nausea, and the movement up would somewhat limit the amount that was absorbed into his body, but only until he would eat more sodium bromide at his next meal. The kidneys exchange ions to make urine. The electric gradient helps concentrate water from the blood, but when the wrong ions are present, the wrong urine is made. And eventually, chloride is so depleted in his body that it's only bromide left, and it's there to cause more problems. It caused him to have a skin rash and acne that he had never had before. Luckily, the medical team were able to determine this quickly because of the hyperchloremia in his blood test. If chloride was displaced by his bromide intake, then the answer would be to give him chloride to replenish his stores and displace all the bromide absorbed in his body. You keep giving it until the bromide is gone. He was started on an aggressive IV with the exact chemical that caused him to do all of this, sodium chloride, because that's what our bodies are made of. It's interesting that this first, most visibly recorded case of someone taking health influence from AI and getting hospitalized is bromism. This is a problem that should have disappeared in America because the FDA banned bromide in all but a few medicines, but occasionally it surfaces. There's some people who might drink a lot of Robitussin, sometimes for cough,
I love cough
sometimes
syrup,
not.
man.
Don't do the latter. You'll notice that Robitussin is dextromethorphan HBr, which is hydrobromide. Done this way because bromide does suppress cough. So on top of the actual cough syrup causing psychotic symptoms when taken inappropriately, the bromide adds on top of it. In 1997, a man drank a gallon of soda every day. As late as
Well, also the problem is that the over-the-counter ones, they have a Tylenol, like the compound in it, at a super fucking so high they have it like fucking yellowed out at the back. So if you want to get enough of this shit to get high, you OD on the fucking Tylenol compound in it.
is dextromethorphan
that's the problem.
HBr, which is hydrobromide.
Back in
Done
my
this
days,
way
though,
because bromide
back in
does
my days,
suppress
though,
cough. So
that-
on top of the actual cough
they didn't
syrup
have
causing
that.
psychotic symptoms when
And it was
taken
over the counter.
inappropriately, the bromide adds on top of it. In 1997, a man drank a gallon of soda every day. As late as 2014, in the United States, brominated vegetable oil was used in some sodas to give off the cloudy, opaque appearance. The man had symptoms of headache, fatigue, and memory loss similar to AJ because his blood bromide levels were measured to be similar to that of AJ's. Although it's still a little unclear today how this happened specifically to him, because I think we all know people who drink as much, if not more, soda than that, even before the elimination of brominated vegetable oil from soda in the United States. More recently, there were cases of bromism coming from dietary supplements reported in literature.
Well, I don't get about the rest of this, but it's interesting though. Guys, don't use AI
Wasn't wrong.
for medical
All
advice.
the articles about this case mention this. It's maybe a little bit weird of a communication back, but have you ever talked with someone else and it just seems like they don't know what you're talking about, but sometimes it feels like they don't want to even try to understand what disease risk, like cardiovascular disease and diabetes. Circulation gets cut off to the legs, and there's a lack of physical activity when you're sitting all day. A standing desk encourages movement and circulation.
Anyway, what else?